Hey everybody, this is So Many Sequels. I'm Josh.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm David.
Thank you for watching here on our YouTube channel or listening through our podcast feed. You can find us online on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search So Many Sequels there to see what we're up to and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
We're back on Zoom this week. Our last show we shot with a proper camera, but we're gonna play around with some things. So that's why things are gonna look different every now and then.
You know what I don't like about Zoom?
What?
Besides this face I'm making right now?
Well, that's not Zoom's fault.
That's true. But
That's
I
all
can see
you.
myself doing it. No, I'm just, when I sit here listening, I'm just paying attention. But when I look so disinterested and like I have resting bitch face, and I'm not. I'm just listening. I don't. It's not my natural state of face to go.
And you're not used to watching yourself listen.
Yeah, this feels unnatural. This feels natural. And I look like a jerk.
Yeah, keep going. What's up?
Now Andrew's playing with his mustache.
Anyway, like we said, we're going to change it up. This is a very easy way to do things, and so
easy.
It's almost effortless, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
my thinking is, I bet we go back and forth a little bit. Try a little bit of this. Try a little bit of that.
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see what we see.
A little bit of Monica.
But yeah,
no
Lou Bega. But today we're going to talk about
Sorry.
Cloverfield. We're going to talk about Cloverfield today.
Cloverfield.
We're starting a new series with this one. Cloverfield's got 3 movies so far it's more of a universe situation than it is like traditional sequels. So I believe that's the first time we've really done something like this, where it's not, like I said, a straightforward sequel.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some weird incarnations, like Halloween 3, Season of the Witch isn't really like a very traditional sequel of the rest of the Halloweens. We did that a while back. I should say you guys did that one a while back. But not a lot of this type of franchises. The franchises that are like these, I should say.
Right. It shouldn't be a spoiler to say that this universe shares Cloverfield is, of course, in the name of each movie, and they all contain monster elements, but that's about it as far as connecting. So, with that in mind, I guess let's just jump straight into Cloverfield. Cloverfield kind of reignited the idea of the monster movie, I think. It had been a bit dormant until this. It came out January 2008. Directed by Matt Reeves, who would later be known for making the 2 of the Planet of the Apes sequels, as well as he's currently working on The Batman with Robert Pattinson. So this movie kind of really kickstarted his career.
Yeah, it resurrected his career, really.
Yeah, that's true, because we had talked a little bit outside of the show about how he was more of a TV guy before this, much like J.J. Abrams, who is the producer of this film.
Yeah, I think that's how he got linked up with Abrams, is on Lost and things like that.
So this movie stars Lizzie Kaplan, Jessica Lucas, T.J. Miller, Michael Stahl-David, Mike Vogel, Odette Yustman. You probably don't recognize a lot of those names. No. I sure don't.
No, outside of T.J. Miller. Yeah, outside of T.J. Miller, the most beautiful cast you'll ever see. Yeah,
Lizzie and T.J. are the most well-known today, I think. T.J. plays the...
Is it fair to call him a narrator?
Well, that's what I was just fighting with in my head, because he's not like a traditional narrator, but
you see the story through his eyes. He's the cameraman.
He's the cameraman. And this is a found footage film presented like a piece of evidence from the Department of Defense, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's the cameraman throughout this whole thing. You only see him a couple times briefly throughout the movie. You mostly just hear his voice. What's everybody's initial thoughts of the movie? Did we like it? Did we hate it?
I'll start. This is some great stuff. I know that might be surprising because I traditionally not a big fan of anything that even kind of is in the neighborhood of horror movies. But I found this. I think honestly, it was the style of filmmaking they used. I found this to be one of the coolest ways to tell this type of story that I've seen, maybe ever. Because I mean, most monster movies have a very traditional set path of how they're going to go through things, and I think Matt Reeves, I think it was J.J. Abrams' initial idea, but Reeves really taking that, and the writer Drew Goddard kind of coming up with a story that doesn't give you all the information, but gives you all the information you really need to follow these characters through a monster movie from a perspective we never really get. Or if we do get, it's usually in the most, cliche way they could do it. This felt like watching real people reacting to a real situation. And I think that every compliment you could give this film really comes back to the way they shot it. It's an incredible. It was an incredible idea to do a found footage style movie in a monster genre.
Well, and it really, like, we can talk about Blair Witch whenever we get to that, but I really like the whole idea of the found footage thing because anymore it's so common. Like when Blair Witch did it, we didn't really have like full access like we do now. But if this scenario were to be presented as real, everyone would be able to record it, and everyone would be recording it on their cell phone. So it really gives you this realistic feeling into something that's so not realistic. Monsters aren't just running around town destroying cities on a regular basis. But because it's so, even though they're using a camcorder at the time, it's still 2008. Is that right?
Maybe, yeah. This might be the last year a camcorder would be the most likely device for this type of movie.
We still really hadn't reached that peak of like everybody's using their phones for everything.
And you see people using them in the movie. They're holding up their tiny little like
early stage iPhones,
LG phones, recording 3 minutes at a time.
Yeah, and anymore, this is exactly how this scenario would be played out. One of the things that I've loved Cloverfield for years, and one of the things that I always wanted and really enjoyed about this movie was that moment in time essence. I always thought that if they did a sequel, they should do something from like the same type of thing told from the perspective of like the military or something. Then we're able, because in this movie we don't really get the full story. Our questions aren't answered. We don't know where this thing came from. We don't really know much outside of what these main characters know. But if you want us to tell us the story, and the sequels this franchise took went a different route, and I love that route that it went, but you could also be like, okay, we're going to tell the story of this monster and its origin through these very narrow points of view. You're going to see some civilians, you're going to see some military, and who knows what else they could have come up with. But I always think that could have been a very interesting way to take it, where you learn the story over the time, even if it's the same event from a different perspective.
Yeah, because that different perspective makes all the difference.
Yeah. I will say, if there's anything about this movie, I think it's lasting. Like, it's definitely not a regular film. And this go around, I mean, I've seen it plenty of times, but this go around, like, critically analyzing it, I feel like it's more in tune now with anything else in regards to monster movies. It's really like, if you think about it for a second, it's really the best monster movie of this century.
I think an argument can be made. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, like, you could easily do something like this today, but at the same time, I mean, the story is not dynamic, but there's not really a dynamic story to this. We're just all of a sudden, it's kind of like those first 30 minutes of Saving Private Ryan. We're suddenly thrust into a situation that nobody knows anything about, and we don't know if anybody's going to get out alive.
Yeah.
And I love that unpredictability of not knowing what's going to happen whenever you're watching a movie like this. And I think that's what kept me on my toes the entire time. Because there was no point in time when it was just like, where like old plot cliches pop up, and it's just like, oh well, we can kind of guess that, maybe there's something's going to happen. No, we don't. It's just a singular timeline, and that to me is like what sets this movie apart from anything else.
What I really like again about the found footage element is that you really feel like you are you really feel like you're TJ Miller. Like TJ Miller's character is, you hear him and whatnot, but you are seeing it from his perspective, and so you feel like you're with them throughout the whole thing. It looks like your POV, and that's what you're seeing. And so what I've always really enjoyed about this is that in those moments, whether they're dull or semi-character building, because you don't get a ton of character development, but you get some, and you connect with them because you're having those personal moments. They're talking to HUD, who is behind the camera, but they're looking at you, and so you're connecting with them, and that is a really good element to make you feel like you're really invested in them. The moment that always stands out to me is they do such a good job of lulling you throughout the movie, where chaos, and then calm. And then you know that chaos is going to come back, but you don't know when. And so the first moment of that really for me is the scene where chaos has happened. They're headed to Becky, the girl. I don't remember her name.
I don't remember any names, yeah.
Beth.
I'm going to scroll down here. I think I have it, Beth.
They're going to her apartment to pick her up because she's trapped. And they're just kind of running down the street, and then bang, all of a sudden out of nowhere, the monster's on this side, and then HUD spins around and you see the military on this time, and missiles are launching over your head, and you feel like you're in the middle of this crossfire between these two, and it just comes out of nowhere.
I know.
And after minutes of like just kind of a lull, like things were happening, but it wasn't like super exciting. And then bam, just out of nowhere.
Boom, all of a sudden, army. Monster. I mean, these people are wearing, they're wearing those little things on the bottom of your shoes you get when you go into a new house, like no one's hearing these people creep up. They are on it. Like it's quite startling.
And then you get that same feeling down in the subway. And there, you get a sense of like normalcy. And that's where I think that TJ Miller and Lizzie Kaplan really shine, because there's all of this going around. They've been chased by monsters. People have been eaten. They're trapped in a subway, and they're walking down. And I think, if I remember right, a lot of this movie was kept secret. So a lot of it was kind of improv dialogue. And there's a scene in the subway where HUD mentions Superman or something like that, and he has a big crush on Lizzie Kaplan's character, Marlena. And he says, "Whoa, you know Superman?" And then she like spins around and is like, "Wait, are you aware of Garfield?" And they just have this silly back and forth reaction to each other. And then they spin around and they'll go to, who knows? There's evil spiders is what I call them.
Yeah. What I like about the whole found footage aspect is that we get a kind of different perspective of a monster movie than I am used to. I don't really know of any other movies of this nature that are found footage like that. A lot of times we get, like look at Godzilla, for example. Mm-hmm. He's like the most popular monster of all, pretty much, especially in the kaiju category. So there's usually like, I feel like an almost cold open type thing where there's like rumblings of a monster. And then we shift to, I don't know, a family enjoying their day or something, and normal life, yada, yada, yada. And then it's like scientist family, and then like monster unleashed. And then buildings are smashed and streets are destroyed, and scientists are trying, scientists are trying to stop it, and the president's on the phone, and the family then has to like save them. I don't know. I don't want to compare that to I don't want to describe the like original Godzilla movies that way, because I haven't seen them. But it seems like Americanized Godzilla is that way.
Yeah, and it feels like most disaster movies in general follow that line of reasoning. And honestly, this could be just as much considered a disaster style movie as it is a monster movie, because you really get a sense of it being more like a force of nature, because we don't know. We just don't know what's going on. You know, like it's the same reaction these people would have if a tornado tore through New York.
Yeah, I thought it was cool to have that perspective and not have an explanation kind of where it came from or its beginnings of like, oh, we know this is coming, because you don't necessarily know it's coming. And we don't have, you know, the military in the like, I don't know, situation room trying to figure out how to stop it. We get zero of that.
No,
we literally just get does anyone remember about how long it takes before it hits the fan?
I think
20 minutes. 20 minutes is like the first note. That's when the blackout happens.
So we get 20 minutes of this generic party movie, honestly, and then it's just chaos from then on out.
Abercrombie and Fitch casting call party,
right?
Is
and then it ends
going on. And then,
the movie also ends with no explanation whatsoever of what just happened or what is going to happen.
No,
nothing. And to this day, even though we know that we're going to cover 2 more movies in this universe, we still don't know what happened.
Not really.
It's not ever explained.
You know as much. You, the viewer, know as much as the guy recording the video. If he hasn't heard it, if the camera wasn't on, you essentially don't know what happened. And there are periods where they make abrupt cuts, like you would in any home movie. You stop filming for a sec, you turn it back on later. You know, you are required to pick up to fill in the gaps for yourself. Like you see, camera turned off for a second. All of a sudden, we are in a big line headed towards a bridge. They're headed towards the bridge. You as the audience, you can make that connection yourself. You don't need to be spoon fed every bit of detail. And I think they did a great job of structuring this movie by giving you all the context clues you need to fill in the bigger story. And I love that you don't really know. You know, it's very natural, and the characters wouldn't know. You know, it would be asinine if one of the characters happened to be like a scientist. You know, who's like, I think it's probably this and this and that.
It'd be too convenient.
Yeah. And we do see the military at one point, and they give us they really don't give us much of anything other than a few details about where to go.
No,
they don't know what the monster is. They don't know what the little things are other than they kill people.
Yeah, they don't appear to know what they're doing any more than anyone else, which is, I feel like, pretty realistic considering we've never, had this happen because monsters aren't real. But if they were, how could you really be prepared? It would be chaos from all angles.
Yep.
Well, and especially because their first reaction, as it probably should be, is bomb it. And the bombs don't work. Like, bomb the hell out of it. Oh, he's still alive. Like, what we gonna do now?
It's like,
just shoot it. Just keep shooting until it dies. That's like
kill it at all costs.
Only thing it can do. And it's not working. So you would in moments like this, you would think, kind of like what these civilians do is they turn to the military and say, where can we go? How are you gonna save us? And they're essentially like, we are literally gonna try to bomb it one more time, and then we're gonna blow up all of Manhattan. like that's the next step is we're just going to completely destroy Manhattan,
which
in
seems
order to save everybody. It does, but like, what else are you going to do?
I don't know, but like you're guaranteeing all these deaths if you bomb Manhattan, but you're not.
It's kind of like the that philosophical question: do you save the lives of a few or save the lives of many and have to kill the lives of a few in the big giant perspective? Because Manhattan is one of the biggest cities in the country.
Acceptable risks.
If they can't kill this monster's gonna kill everybody.
Yeah.
Well, I don't understand.
What do you do?
And we don't know if it can be contained. They don't know if it can be contained. They don't know if if there's more of them. What if this is just the start? It's just this one.
Yeah, if he's just a recon guy, holy crap, what's the attackers gonna look like?
Yeah.
Why don't these monsters ever wash up on the shores of rural Oregon?
I know, right? Right. This is my complaint about big movies in general. The superheroes specifically. Like the Fantastic Four have been to Mars more than they've been to Alabama. Like, how do we get more representation for the Midwest?
Because if this happened today, there would be people in the Midwest on Facebook saying, "I heard a rumor that the monster's coming here."
Yeah.
Better. I don't know.
The difference is
Also, ready.
The monster would have never existed. It was a Black Ops.
It's the media.
What's the new thing they call these things? False flag.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
That's probably more true than we want to admit.
Why do they always use New York City? I feel like New York City is like the central hub of any American monster movie. It's like
it is.
We're gonna shoot a monster movie.
I think
it's gotta be in New York City.
I think there's practical reasons, and then there's bigger picture reasons. I think
maximum destruction on screen.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right.
It's one of the most famous cities in the world, so it's recognizable by most.
Very
people.
Recognizable, even internationally.
Even
I really think
even the LA city skyline. Like if you showed me that, I'd be like, oh.
I think those are the two main reasons. I think maximum destruction and recognizability.
And then pragmatically, New York has really good incentives to shoot there. I think
you could do Chicago if it comes out of the lake,
or fairly.
It's harder to explain.
Sure, I don't see a problem with that.
So this movie also had a really insane marketing strategy that involved a lot of secrecy. We mentioned in the beginning that this was a pretty secret movie. When the first trailer dropped in front of the first Transformers movie back into the summer of 2007, the trailer had no title attached to it.
No title,
which is pretty rare. They had to get special permission from the Motion Picture Association to do that, because obviously that would, in general, not be a cool thing to do. But it was part of the whole drive to drum up appeal and hype and all that stuff. So we just get this found footage monster movie trailer with no title attached from producer J.J. Abrams, who is on a hot streak with Lost and everything. And of course, Alias before that.
Let's get through it. Marketing was amazing for this. It was originally titled January 1st or January 18th, 2008, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, sure.
I'm very frustrated, folks at home. I'm very frustrated.
Yeah.
Bobby McFerrin it, David. Bobby McFerrin.
You're good, David.
The worst part was Andrew went first. He was talking, and all of a sudden he went.
But see, the problem is that could have been real. You don't know.
I know.
Listen,
Andrew's the worst.
He just pauses.
Andrew's the control for this experiment, because Andrew could be sitting there frozen for no reason.
Right. Also, let's just clear the air that you could have stopped talking at the worst part is Andrew.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I'm assuming. So my editing skills are probably not going to be good enough to hide all of this. So for anyone who's watching, this is us acknowledging that there are serious issues with this video, and we're well aware of it.
Yeah, and anybody who's listening, you probably have the same thing too.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
It's a shame. I really want to talk about how great Cloverfield is.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
It doesn't want the secrecy continues on this podcast. They don't want us to talk about it.
So Josh, last I remember you talking about the marketing, you said that they had to get special permission from the MPAA.
Oh, that's the last thing you heard? Dang it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they had to get special permission because typically movies are not, released without a title, or at least teased without a title. So
what a concept that would be, going without a title at all.
Well, that would be wild. It wasn't. What would you tell the box office person? I guess.
I don't know. You'd be like, it's untitled.
Give me that no movie.
It's every freshman in college's first paper.
Yeah.
Title.
So the movie came out January 2008. It wasn't until November 2007, I believe, someone can fact check me, that the title was revealed in the second trailer. So a lot of hype and suspicion and all this stuff surrounding this movie, particularly with J.J. Abrams' connection to Lost, which is also a very mysterious show that drove a lot of online conversation about the various mysteries and clues and all that. People were like, is this tied to Lost somehow? Is it something new? A lot of cool mystery. And there's a lot of great viral marketing with it as well, in the form of MySpace pages for the characters.
Yeah.
For those of you who remember and used MySpace,
Got big people from the top 8 spaces.
None of it was connected to the plot at all. It was literally just character-based viral marketing. So you didn't really learn anything from it, but for people who wanted to get involved in kind of figuring out the mystery, it just gave you that much more of a personal connection to it because of the work a lot of fans did to kind of find all these Easter eggs and all that. So very cool viral marketing done by I assume the people at Paramount. I like it when a movie does that.
Yeah.
I like that. You know what though is wild to me? I'm just now talking out of my ass, I guess, but for such a well done strategy, and we've seen this before with certain movies over the years, but it's never really like attempted often, I don't think.
No, it doesn't seem very consistently.
Which seems surprising to me that they're not all everyone doesn't try to replicate it. Andrew has
the only thing I can think of is when The Dark Knight did it.
There was some viral marketing with The Dark Knight.
Yeah, they had a viral campaign.
Yeah, their viral marketing.
And that came out the same year.
Yeah, it came out the same year. But like their viral marketing was actually kind of insane because they started back during San Diego Comic-Con, and they were having you find clues to it, and everything just kept kind of building up from there. Even when they showed the first 5 minutes of the movie in IMAX as a trailer. So yeah, I mean it's crazy how that works, and it works. Yeah, and you don't see a whole lot of it anymore for really anything.
Yeah, I can remember I was in my senior year of high school when this movie came out, and I was working at a movie theater, and there was a lot of hype amongst us as movie theater employees as to like, what is this going to be? We're super excited. I can't remember if it drew a huge crowd or not, but that was a long time ago. But we know that it did draw a pretty good crowd overall because of the box office run of this movie. So
That's
David,
right.
Let's talk about that if you can.
That's right. I'm still here. This is promising so far. I want to make one quick diversion before I talk about the box office. It kind of impacts the box office.
Okay.
So I want to talk a little bit about the visual effects. I think a smart move they did was having it being this docu-series, this docu-fiction style shooting. It allowed them to use things like smoke, buildings. It's all mostly set at night. A lot of shifting perspectives for the camera allowed them to not have to do as much visual effects as they would have on a Godzilla or a King Kong or something like that, where you're spending millions of dollars, or at least, I mean, not millions, but you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars just on the monster. And they were able to get away with very little here. The editor, Kevin Stitt, no relation to our governor, said that the film is essentially shot through a soda straw, and you are getting a very focused version of the movie. And so essentially the scale feels 10 times bigger than they actually had to make it, because everything is so focused just through that. And because of the relatively low amount they spent on casting and on visual effects and on crazy sets, because they only had 2 sets for this movie. They had 2 street sets, and then they had the underground set, and everything else they pretty much got away with really easy. They had 2 street sets, and then they had a couple indoor sets. So Cloverfield debuted January 18th, way back in 2008, finishing #1 with a 3-day opening of $40 million, pretty much right on the dot. $40 million and 58,000. So what else was in the box office that weekend? If I remember correctly, there wasn't a ton of competition. It was kind of a weak weekend. Really should have had this open before. So the competition that weekend, I told you, Cloverfield debuted #1 with $40 million, with $23 million in the #2 spot, 27 dresses. Now, there's a franchise I'm looking forward to. I never saw 26 dresses.
That's a lot of movies we have to watch. Damn,
I know. We got to watch Dresses. Then we got to watch Dresses 2, or 2 Dresses. Then
Too Dressed, Too Furious.
And then eventually it's just like Dresses, but the S is a 5.
And then you got the spinoff Undressed.
Yeah, there you
Didn't
go.
do as well.
Yeah. Then at number 3, you had The Bucket List, starring Morgan Freeman and
Jack
Nicholson.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that it? Yeah.
Yep.
That came in with $14 million. At number 4, you have my least favorite movie of that year. Not really, but kind of. Juno, bringing in $9.9 million. And then at number 5, we have a movie called First Sunday. You guys remember this?
Nope.
This is not a sequel to the Friday series, but it does mostly star the cast of the Friday movies. A movie with Ice Cube, Cat Williams, a bunch of other people. And yet it's not anyway. At number 6, just behind, is the only other sequel in the box office that was very high up in the box office is National Treasure 2: Book of Secrets.
Okay.
So no real sequels in the top 5 that weekend. It's a very original weekend. It's a January, so that kind of thing tends to happen. Cloverfield would have finished in the United States with $80 million in its U.S. run over its 12 weeks. You add another $92 million from foreign markets, giving it a worldwide total of $172.3 million, which is a pretty good for a new movie, new franchise, a different kind of movie. A lot of people were afraid of the shaky cam element, that they were going to get nauseous, things like that.
I will say on my first viewing of it, it did make me kind of nauseous, and this was at home.
It made you nauseous watching it recently.
Yeah.
I guess I'm lucky. I don't get nauseated from watching.
I didn't
Never
from
had that
this. I have been nauseated during movies, but not.
Yeah, but
this
not
movie.
because of that.
No, it's just because they're bad movies.
No,
those movies make me sick.
I can't really remember the last one. It was a movie, but it was a situation where the movie did like a thing where they like tilted the camera in a certain way, so it felt like It felt like in my seat I was moving in opposition.
Yeah.
Have you ever been like in a car and your car is moving very slowly and the other car next to you is moving forward very slowly, so you feel like you're
can't
moving
tell.
but sitting still? Yeah, it was that type of effect, and I was like,
My favorite was when I went and saw Free Solo in the IMAX with Andrew, and he about fell out of his chair just in there.
And that would not have been the first time that Andrew would have ever fallen down while sitting down.
Yeah. Free Solo in the IMAX. Now that's a movie that'll
make you sick.
Make you sick. Yeah.
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 Oh, but it's worth it. Woo, that was fun.
It's a
Oh
good
boy.
movie. Okay.
So if we travel back to the year 2008, this is a pretty good year for movies in general. I call it a defining year because two major movies finished number 1 and 2 in the domestic charts, and they would pretty much dictate how Hollywood was going to go. At number 1 for the year of 2008 was The Dark Knight, bringing in $530 million domestic. That movie would eventually make over $1 billion worldwide. At number 2, with $318 million domestic, it's Iron Man. At number 3, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. At number 4, Hancock. And at number 5, it's Pixar's Wall-E.
I'm
rounding out
surprised Hancock made that much money. Wow.
I know. It made $227 million.
I was still when Will Smith could carry a movie.
Will Smith, and people were big on superheroes at this point in time. Yeah. This was kind of the height of superhero movies, and Hancock is the highest original concept film that year. Iron Man, obviously the highest non-sequel. And then we had a few other good movies. Kung Fu Panda, something we got on the wheel right now, Twilight. We got Madagascar.
Also
the franchise we missed out on. At number 9, it's Quantum of Solace. One of these days,
we will get to do the James Bond.
we will be back, James Bond.
It was going to happen earlier, folks.
Like the Terminator, we will be back.
Yeah.
James Bond.
And award-winning movies that
Fingers
year.
crossed later this year.
Yeah. Let's hope it all comes out. Bond is the stuff they could do viral marketing with. I don't know why they don't do as much. So some other honorable mentions. That was the year Slumdog Millionaire came out.
Best picture winner.
Benjamin Button. I don't remember the whole title of that. It's like The Amazing Life of Benjamin Button.
The Curious Case.
Curious Case. There it is. And then you had Frost Nixon that year. The Reader. Milk. Which I always think is MLK until I read closer. And that's it.
Harvey.
That's really it for the box office stats. I had a stat about this being one of the highest gross. It was one of the highest openings of 2008, but it didn't make the top 10, so it wasn't really all that impressive. Andrew is running our Letterbox game this week. Josh, while Andrew gets his stuff out, do you want to explain the Letterbox game?
Yeah. So the Letterbox game is a game that we play to guess the average score of whatever movie we're talking about on Letterbox.com or the Letterboxd app. It's a great social media network for movie lovers like us. It's a little bit, we have found it a little bit of a better place to find a good consensus of a movie than, say, a Rotten Tomatoes or what have you, just because it's all fan accounts. I guess that's how I'll word it. And at least as of now, it's a pretty good community of people who care about movies, whereas Rotten Tomatoes is like the Walmart of collecting film reviews, which is like fine. It's effective, but we have found too many times that we don't agree in a big way.
Well, it's that, and it's just it was too easy to skew.
Too easy to skew, yeah.
And it was so, and it just doesn't feel quite as effective. Now, this is also aggregating these, most of these people's reviews, but it's people like us, people who are watching these movies, reviewing them, and maybe like Rotten Tomatoes, one day it'll get too big and too mainstream, and it won't be the same. Rotten Tomatoes before 2005 was probably a really cool.
But it's also nice because you got Rotten Tomatoes, which separates fans and critics. Mm-hmm. Whereas Letterboxd, there are critics on there, and their vote or their ranking isn't weighed any higher than mine or yours. So,
yep.
And it's just a fun, cool place that we wanted to promote a little bit through our extremely tiny platform.
We have a massive platform. Thank you very much.
Amen.
Yeah, we've got something like 15 followers on Letterboxd already.
Our platform is the size of the internet, but not very many people are standing on it.
They haven't found our corner yet.
Right.
Not yet.
So hopefully, through all that, Andrew has figured out where he stands.
He done forgot that he was running the game throughout this whole thing.
What? I am?
I am. So, what would everybody give this rating? Give this movie a rating?
I'm gonna guess that on Letterboxd, it is a 3.7.
David, 3.7.
So I think that people like it, but I think that a lot of people are gonna kind of struggle with the shakiness.
Okay.
I think that's
a lot of people have a serious problem with that, and I don't like them, but
I don't understand it fully. I get it, but it worked for this movie. But I remember seeing it, and I remember a lot of people walking away and not liking the movie at all because of the style that it was shot in. I still think it's going to be relatively high. I think it's going to be a little lower than Dave. I'm going to go 3.4.
Mm-hmm.
So David 3.7, Garrett 3.4, Josh
3.2.
3.2.
So we're on the threes.
Okay.
Yeah.
He lost it.
No. So 3.2, 3.4,
3.7.
3.7.
Yeah.
All right. So the winner. This is tough.
Oh.
That's what she said?
Might need a tiebreaker.
This is tough, and here's why. So the rating is 3.3.
3.3.
Oh.
Right in
we
between.
do have a tie.
Josh
What's the
and
tie?
Garrett.
Do we have a tiebreaker?
We don't have a tiebreaker for this one.
We don't. Hang on.
We can
Hang
guess
on,
the Rotten
I'm out,
Tomatoes
so
score.
I'm out. So I'll pull up Letterboxd. I can help out.
Okay.
I was gonna say we can either stick to Letterbox or we can pull up the Rotten Tomatoes score and guess that.
I mean,
Man, we could. I just dumped all over them though.
wait,
or IMDb or something, or Metacritic. I don't know.
I was gonna do
Oh,
IMDb.
Okay.
And that's always like 7.2 is what it's always.
That's true. Every movie is 7.2 on IMDb.
Yeah, or 7.8.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Here's what I'll do: is I'll go to Metacritic.
Okay. I respect them more.
Yeah. Hang on just a second.
And everything's low on Metacritic.
It's true. They weigh it a lot.
System works on that.
So while Andrew's doing that, I'll try to explain that a little bit. So on Rotten Tomatoes, I'm probably explaining stuff that you guys already know, but for the viewers, let's say a movie has an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. That does not mean that the average score of the movie is 80% or 8 out of 10. That just means that 80% of critics gave it a positive review, which could be 3 out of 5 or a 5 out of 5. So you're not really getting a good indication of how much people liked the movie, just that they liked it. So on Metacritic, it actually takes that part into account to get a better idea of how the movie actually ranks on a number scale versus just how many of the critics liked it.
Okay.
Do you want to do that, or do you want to guess how many people have given this movie a like?
I want to do the Metacritic, I think, but then I'm curious to know that one too.
Okay.
So do you have it?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and it's out of 100.
Yeah. It's a scale from 0 to 100.
Okay.
And this is critics and people, right?
I think these are just critics.
I don't know enough about Metacritic, so
It's
you go first.
I just explained everything about
No,
Metacritic.
I know.
He didn't listen.
Huh?
See?
See?
I said you didn't listen.
Oh, what's that?
Yeah.
82. I don't know.
Okay.
You're at 82?
So that's like saying you think that the average score is like 8.2 out of 10.
Yeah.
Basically. Okay, so I'm going to go I want to go a little lower, but not terribly lower. 77.
77?
Double sevens.
Okay, 77, 82. David, do you want to chime in just for fun?
Yeah, I'll say 79.
I think 82 is too high.
So 82 Garrett, 72
77.
77.
I'll say 61.
And
Doesn't
for
matter what I say.
For fun, David, you get 61.
61. Everything's bad on Metacritic.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
That's why I think I'm too high.
Out of 37 reviews, the final score on
That's
Metascore is 64.
Yeah,
Josh,
that's
you win.
low. Wow. Holy crap. That's too low.
Wow.
I think we should move the game to Metacritic from now on. I think
No.
it's actually the superior site.
No.
No, but I don't mind. I don't mind it
64
as a tiebreaker. I like it because it throws us all off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
none of us.
It
Yeah.
makes it even more random.
We've not started gaming that system
Because
yet.
that was the other problem with Rotten Tomatoes is we all pretty much figured out the system, so we would all guess like the same 3 numbers. Okay. Anyway, let's wrap this up.
So I'll tell you this: Cloverfield has been reviewed by 182,000 people on Letterbox, and 30,000 of those have given it a like or a heart. And then of those 30,000, 284 have put this in their top 4 movies.
Nice.
That's pretty
or
good.
in their favorite movies,
Not
whatever
bad.
you call that little section. So that's
Not
pretty
bad
cool.
at all.
Good for Cloverfield.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll run the game for 10 Cloverfield Lane. What is our score out of 5 on for Letterboxd?
5.
Really?
5. Yep.
All the way up at a 5. I was going to give this a solid 4.
I'm
Solid
with
4.
I'm
It's
with
great.
David. A solid 4.
It's
I'm going to
great.
split you, and I'm going to do a 4.5.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure what I would add or subtract, but I think it's not necessarily jumped to like the top of my favorites, but man, what a really, really good film.
So we are looking at a 4.5 for the So Many Sequels account because I'm rounding up from 4.37.
Cool.
It gets
I'm
gets
content with that.
Yep, I'm good with that.
It gets a 5 from me because like it's an original film. It's an original monster film, but it's an original take on the monster film.
That's
and
right.
I think it's like you get an A for trying, and it really nails it down very well. Like I want to know more about the Cloverfield universe, we may never know enough about it. So if they never make a sequel from this, like from this one directly, this will be more than a treat.
Yep, agreed. Okay, well, that's the end of this episode. We will, I surely hope, be back next time to talk about 10 Cloverfield Lane, the next installment in the Cloverfield universe. Until then, you can find us online on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you are on Letterbox, you can find us on there too. Just search for So Many Sequels on all of those apps. You're almost certainly going to find us. Mm-hmm. And of course, we have a So Many Sequels account on Patreon. If you would like to help us out there, we appreciate that. That's it, I guess.
Until next time.
Until next time, yeah.
It's still alive. It's still alive, people. It's still alive, people.
Oh, shaky cam.